Welcome to Bunch Formation, your newest favorite college football show. I am Chris Vannini, and I'm ready to play for an axe, a top hat, old pants. It's rivalry week, man. I am fired up.
I'm Sam Khan, and I am ready to stop hearing everybody's hot take about turkeys because it's actually okay. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's just all right. We don't have to have all these hot takes that we're getting all week on Thanksgiving food. So I'm ready to move on and start listening to Christmas music after starting on Black Friday. I am a believer that you do not listen to Christmas music or put up your decorations before Black Friday.
100% with you on that. You may notice that's Sam. That's not David Ubben. David Ubben is in Knoxville with the family, going through normal family Thanksgiving issues. And when asked if he was able to join the show, he used many a curse word to describe what was going on. So Sam was grateful enough to join the show. Sam was on with us in the preseason when we talked some stuff. I think we did overrated, underrated top 25s is when that, and Sam listeners love.
I had some bad ones. I know I had some bad ones.
We all did. We'll recap all that after the season, but folks like Sam being on the show, and Sam was grateful enough on the day before Thanksgiving to come join us. And folks, we've got a loaded show, one of the most loaded shows we've ever had. There is so much to talk about this week. I am so excited. It's rivalry week. Seasons are on the line. Conference title shots are on the line. Playoff hopes. We've got new coaches at Oklahoma State and North Texas. As of recording, there might be more pretty soon. We've got playoff ranking drama, and we are going to get into all of it with Sam. You can also check out the show notes if you want to jump ahead to various spots in the show. We got timestamps down there. We'll also link to some various things that we have written as well. We are Bunch Formation on pretty much all social medias, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of that. Please leave us a 5-star review. We will read it on the show. We actually have quite a few have been added. So thank you, folks, for getting to that. We're going to skip that this time. I want to do those when David is here. We'll have a lot more time next week when it's just conference championship. So we'll get to that. We'll get to mailbag questions. Send anything. Send all your feedback to bunchformationpod@gmail.com. But we're going to start off, before we get to the games, we're going to start off with some news that has happened this week. And to do that, we start off with the media scrum.
That's why I don't read the newspaper, because it's garbage.
And we're going to start off with the college football playoff rankings, which came out Tuesday night. I did a live show by myself because David was busy, but wasn't a ton of drama. There was some more drama actually after the rankings came out. Two things jumped out to me, really. Notre Dame at 9, Miami at 12. The other was Michigan jumping Texas 15-16. Notre Dame being ahead of Miami, ultimately not a surprise. But what was interesting was that the chair, Hunter Yurachek, said that they did compare Notre Dame and Miami. They were in the same pool to be compared. But ultimately, he said Notre Dame has played better, been more consistent in all these things. And while Miami is playing better, they thought Notre Dame was better. That has crossed this conversation into another level now. Sam, the Notre Dame Miami thing has been talked about to death. We don't need to recap the whole thing. But what do you think of it and what Yurachek said?
I really did think, and maybe I was foolish for thinking it, that once they got into the same group or the same pod, when you rank these teams, that the head-to-head would win out. And I understand it was a close game. It was in Miami or Miami Gardens. It was way a long time ago, back at the start of the season in early September, late August. I get all that. But at what point do we render the games irrelevant when we do this? Because ultimately, my assessment of the committee was that we were supposed to evaluate what we thought were the best teams based on what we have seen. And I am a big believer in metrics, and I'm a big believer in advanced statistics and a lot of the tools that we use to evaluate teams. But when you have a data point that is on the field that clearly states that one team was better than another, even if it was 12 weeks ago, and those teams have the same amount of losses and they have a similar schedule strength, then I don't know what we're talking about, and I don't understand why that doesn't hold some water. I don't understand why it isn't a tiebreaker between these two. Um, and it does. I do find it interesting. The thing that it makes this the hardest to reconcile for me is that Notre Dame's strength of schedule is being propped up by two teams it lost to. If you wanted to say that you thought Notre Dame was better because they beat those two teams, then I can get with that argument. But for some reason, those two losses, and yes, they are better than Miami's losses, but I feel like we're overvaluing the quality of the losses over the quality of the wins. And this is just my personal opinion, to me, it's always about who did you beat. When I look at your resume, who can I point to on your schedule that you say, you know what, that was a really good win, or those were some really good wins. And does Notre Dame have some good wins? Sure. Do they have wins that are good enough to overcome a head-to-head loss against Miami? I don't think so.
I mean, like, you've played, like, it feels like the committee's trying too hard with this stuff. Like, they're trying to do these mental gymnastics to explain things. You are now comparing Notre Dame and Miami. They played, one of them won. Like, it's simple. It's been simple the whole time. I've had Miami ahead of Notre Dame the whole time, but because the committee put Miami so far behind when they first did, that created this situation where they had to catch up, and that caused a lot of problems there. I don't think Miami has a path now. I mean, like, if a couple of teams between them lose, like, does it get closer? I don't know. They're already being compared. So it's weird. It's unfortunate. I think it could be the second most controversial thing the committee's done. Florida State, Alabama being the other one. But we've never had the situation where two teams played each other and they just went with one over the other. It's not like TCU Baylor back in 2014. They kept both of them out when they put Ohio State in. So there's that issue. I'm kind of tired of talking about it, but it is what it is at this point. I do think if Miami finishes 10-2, and the larger problem, obviously, is that they would be the highest ranked team in the ACC and not making the ACC championship game because these conferences are too big. And yes, Miami lost 2 conference games, but Virginia didn't play Miami, Pitt, Georgia Tech, or SMU. The conference schedules are so out of whack because these leagues are too big. The point of conferences is to find out who are the best teams within these groups and then do something from there. We're not able to do that now because these conferences are frankly too big. That's not a problem we can solve here and there. But Miami's path is a bit of an issue now. The other thing that surprised me, Michigan moving up, I think 3 spots to number 15, jumping ahead of Texas at 16. Now, why would they do that? Michigan beat Maryland 45-20. Texas beat Arkansas by 15. Well, number 14 there is Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt played Texas, and Texas won that game. And so if you had put them together, Vanderbilt, Texas back-to-back, you then invite the conversation of, wait a minute, Texas beat Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's one reason to slide Michigan up there. Maybe. This is getting a little bit conspiratorial, but it makes no sense. The other thing is that if Michigan beats Ohio State, they will have a very strong case to make the playoff. But what if Texas also beats Texas A&M? Or, like, if Texas is ahead of Michigan at that time, can you leave Texas out, put Michigan in instead, and jump them there? That would be more difficult. So that's weird. And a lot of people saying, well, Texas has 3 losses. Michigan has 2. Yeah, they did a week ago. And Michigan was behind Texas. Nothing changed. Mm-hmm. The only thing that changed is that Michigan beat Maryland and Texas beat Arkansas. Neither game was close. So that, and it's to avoid a head-to-head conversation again. By the way, you know who Michigan lost to? Oklahoma. You know who Oklahoma beat? Texas. Michigan ahead of Texas here makes just simply no sense at all. And it feels like the committee trying to go back and fix issues they had in the past or avoid the conversations. It's a bit of a mess. It could get very messy down at the end. But Sam, as our resident tech expert, you and I are both going to be in Austin for that game, by the way. That was surprising.
What is Michigan's best win? I'm looking at their resume right now.
Washington?
Yeah.
Probably, who lost to Wisconsin?
Yeah, Washington. They won at Nebraska. I'm struggling to see the wins that And not to be state of Texas homer here, but Texas has a win, as you mentioned, over Oklahoma, and they have the win
In,
over Vanderbilt.
in Vanderbilt, 2 top 15 wins.
And
yes,
don't get me wrong. I don't believe that Texas has been a great playoff worthy team all year. They have not played that way throughout much of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But their resume is still, in my opinion, better than Michigan, unless they're using the same logic that you're using with Notre Dame and Miami, is saying that, well, we just think based on what we're watching that this Michigan team is better. So
but the thing is, like, so when I do the rankings, I rank 136 teams. Every week I'm thinking, what consequences will result of me putting this team here? I can't put a team too high if I suddenly feel the need to drop them later, despite having a good win. This is kind of the Notre Dame conundrum. Like, I've had Texas ahead of Vanderbilt. I've had USC ahead of Michigan. I've had Miami ahead of Notre Dame. And that is where those are kind of the beginning pillars. If I think these teams are pretty equal, which I do, because the ultimate results on the team are the problem. To everybody saying, well, Texas lost to Florida. Yeah, they did. But the reason Texas also has 3 losses is because they played Ohio State closer than anybody in week 1. Vanderbilt didn't play a non-conference schedule like that. Michigan didn't play a non-conference schedule like that. So that is therefore Texas is basically only being penalized. Not only. The main reason they are being penalized is because they have that 3rd loss. Yes, they went to overtime with Kentucky and Mississippi State. They have not played great all year long. But when comparing the biggest wins and the biggest losses, Texas it's not like Michigan's been blowing the doors off of people and you're thinking, man, if this team gets in, look out. It's not like that. This is the issue with everybody being so close. All right, let's move into coaching changes. Got some hires this week. Both of them coming on Tuesday. Oklahoma State hiring Eric Morris from North Texas. Morris is currently 10-1 this year. The Mean Green are still playing for a spot in the conference championship this week, spot in the playoff potentially. They've done a really good job this year. He was also the coach at FCS Incarnate Word, longtime Texas Tech guy. Sam, you know those guys at North Texas a lot. I live not too far from them. What do you think of the hire?
I thought Oklahoma State nailed it. I don't know that you could do much better than they did with this hire with Eric Morris for a few reasons. Number one, Eric Morris has been a head coach at 2 different places, both of which didn't have a ton of resources and built them up into winners. He built Incarnate Word at the FCS level into a winner and took them to their first FCS playoffs in the Southland Conference. Then, after a brief detour to Wazoo as the OC, went to North Texas and built that team up into now a legitimate college football playoff contender and conference championship contender in the American. And with a very small roster budget. They have a roster budget of less than $2 million, way less than USF, which is close to 10.
Yeah.
Tulane and Memphis are, I think, both around 5 or higher. And so they are way at the bottom of the food chain in their conference and roster budget. But, man, they found some talent. You look at Caleb Hawkins, the running back, Drew Mestamaker, the quarterback, who we've talked a lot about and written a lot about over the course of this year. Probably going to be one of the most hottest commodities in the portal this
very
winter.
much.
May very much follow Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. We'll see. Thought he made a great defensive coordinator hire in Skylar Cassidy, who's done a good job turning that defense around after a time at Sam Houston.
That is the real one there. Like, North Texas has always scored points under Eric Morris. They had Chandler Morris, no relation, as a quarterback before that. It was hiring Skylar Cassidy, the defense coordinator at Sam Houston, that really fixed the defense for North Texas this year. And so Cassidy could be a guy who gets the job in place of him, or he could come with him. If I'm Oklahoma State, I want to know, can he bring Drew Mestamaker, or is that going to be too costly? Can he bring that running back who's from Oklahoma? Can he bring Skylar Cassidy?
Wyatt Young too.
Yeah. I think ultimately Eric Morris checked off all the boxes you want if you're Oklahoma State. He knows Texas really, really well. He's from there. He's spent almost all of his career there. He's got the connections. You have to be able to recruit Texas really well. He leads the number 1 offense in the country. You got to score points at Oklahoma State. That's when they have been at their best. And like you said, he's done more with less. He has gone up against schools with more resources and beaten them or been competitive with them. And that is often what Oklahoma State is relative to some of its other peers in the Big 12. So no guarantee that any hire is going to work. But when you look at what you feel like Oklahoma State needs, Eric Morris checks everything that you want.
And two key points I want to add to that. You're right about the Texas thing. And I feel like Oklahoma State, which really made its bones under Mike Gundy by recruiting Texas players out of Texas high schools, I don't feel like they've been as competitive in recent years. You talk to people down in the state and they say Oklahoma State is not going toe-to-toe with the TCUs and the Baylors and the Texas Techs as much as they used to in the past for some of the better high school talent that doesn't go blue blood. So I think getting back into the state in a big way, I think Eric Morris will help them do that. Number two, they need someone who knows how to raise money, knows how to get the donors charged up. He's had to do that in North Texas. He's tried to go through every nook and cranny to get some money for his roster. Mike Gundy, on the other hand, when he was there, really hurt the fundraising efforts toward the end, because I talked to somebody there who said that every time Gundy complained publicly about paying players in the new era of college football, it really hurt the collective's efforts to try to raise money for the roster.
He did that. He said, we're broke, and also our fans are poor. He said that almost got him fired last year because of how much he upset.
And so I think Eric Morris is going to embrace that. Yeah, I think he's going to embrace this, and I think he's going to light the fire under the donors and the collective and get them back in the game in that way, in a real way, from a roster standpoint. And they did spend better this previous portal cycle, but I think they're going to get much more aggressive with Morris at the helm in terms of retooling that roster. And I'll tell you this: if they get Morris, Skylar Cassidy, Mestamaker, Caleb Hawkins, buddy, I think they're going to a bowl game next year. I think they could turn it around really quickly.
Very good. Very well could. The other hire happening late Tuesday night into Wednesday, Colorado State hires UConn head coach Jim Mora. A little bit of a surprise to people, but ultimately it makes sense. Mora was interested in jobs out west. He's from California. He went to Washington. I think he has a place in Idaho, or he was building one at one point. So he's done a really, really good job at UConn to win 9 games back-to-back years there at a program that people thought was dead. Very, very impressive. He talked to Stanford. He talked to Oregon State. He wasn't getting as much interest for bigger jobs as much as I thought he would, given what he did at UConn with the resources they have. They've got some like legit dudes on that team. Like they've developed some NFL players.
Skylar Bell, baby.
Yeah, up for the Blitnikoff Award for the best receiver. And his NFL experience. I mean, he's been an NFL head coach. He's been in there for a long time. So that's somebody who theoretically knows how to kind of navigate the changes within college football. But he goes to Colorado State, which is a job that has been kind of defined by unmet potential. People, coaches and everybody, they keep thinking, people tell you like, man, Colorado State could be really, really good. They've got great facilities. They've got great fan support. You've got resources and money and these things. They've had one winning season in 10 years. And it's just like, it just hasn't quite worked. Now, it's not the most fertile recruiting ground ever. You got to find some places to get kids. Mora's West Coast connections maybe help there. But ultimately, I think it's a really solid, good hire for Colorado State. Again, no idea if any of these things are going to work, but everybody was totally out on Jim Mora and UConn when that happened. And look what he did there. So I think solid hire.
Yeah, and I will say this. I feel like people, I think, were maybe a little hard on Jim Mora in terms of his tenure at UCLA. It fell off at the end there. You know, they had a couple of rough seasons at the end, but he had them going for a little bit. They were winning 9-10 games pretty consistently for
back-to-back years, back-to-back years of 10 wins. Yeah.
And they haven't touched 10 wins since he's been gone. And it's not to say that they shouldn't have made the change, but I think we kind of forgot, hey, this guy does know what he's doing. He is a pretty good coach. And he reminded us of that with what he's done at UConn, because getting that program to 9 wins back-to-back years is no easy feat. So kudos to him. I think that's a smart hire, I think, on their front. Really fascinating to see how it works out. Like you said, a lot of investment there. It's just a matter of, can they get the right guy to get that thing going?
Yes. So as for the other searches going on, a lot of the stuff could break even after we record or going into the weekend. But I wrote a coaching carousel notebook on The Athletic, went up Wednesday. I've written all this out. I've got what I'm hearing about pretty much every search going on. So we'll run through some of this quickly, but you can read the whole thing. It's linked in the show notes if you want to go check that out. Arkansas could happen quickly. Alex Golish at USF, very much in on it. Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator at Alabama, very much in on it. Womack played at Arkansas, former South Alabama head coach. So they both have head coaching experience. Seems like Golish may be the favorite. He was in the mix at Oklahoma State as well, that went to Morris. Both young guys. Womack did a pretty good job at South Alabama before he left for Alabama to be an assistant again. So that's interesting. The Lane Kiffin of it all, we'll find out either sometime Friday or Saturday. They play at noon on Friday. So sometime after that is when Lane will announce his decision.
Heck, we might have find out during the middle of the game. You know how some of these things go.
Yeah.
Halftime of the game or something.
What is that exactly? Nobody really knows. Like, you talk to as many people close to him, like, people don't actually know right now. But in talking to people around the LSU search and the Florida search, I can tell you that both of them feel very confident about their ability to land him, and they think they're going to get him. But Florida seems to have more backup options at the ready. You're talking Tulane's John Summerall, Louisville's Jeff Brom, Vanderbilt's Clark Lee, Washington's Jed Fish, a former Florida alum. You ask people, like, where does LSU go if it's not Lane? Nobody knows. Nobody has heard anything of, like, these are the other options and that kind of stuff. So does that mean LSU is more likely? I don't know. Or does that mean LSU is overconfident and what's going to happen if they don't? We don't know. Like, nobody really knows what Lane is going to do, but I found that to be pretty interesting. If I was to handicap it, I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd say LSU, but I wouldn't feel confident about it.
I would agree with you. I think LSU is the one I'm leaning toward. I do wonder, though, if he ends up staying, it's just going to. This turned out to be a giant troll for 2 weeks, or maybe he was just absolutely torn the whole time and just decided at the end. That is going to be fascinating that we have spent all this time and he ends up staying. But I tend to think it's LSU because, to me, and like you wrote on Wednesday, if he was going to stay, I feel like we would have heard that decision by now, and we would have known.
The last time that Lane was dancing with a job, they lost the Egg Bowl. Like, what happens if they lose and he announces he's staying, and then suddenly Ole Miss isn't hosting a home playoff game because they lost? And if you're a fan, you're like, oh, cool, we kept Lane Kiffin. Wait, why didn't you announce this before the game? That's why the longer it's gone, the more people have thought it's more likely he's leaving, because you're putting Ole Miss through hell right now. And I hate that. I hate that for Ole Miss fans and what all this. Ole Miss is having one of the best seasons in school history. They have a shot to win the national championship. And the idea that you could lose your coach in the middle of that sucks. And it's not the calendar or this or that. It's Lane Kiffin. Eric Morris is leaving North Texas. He's staying with North Texas through the rest of the thing. But it's different if you're a group of 5 coach going to a Power 4 job. That is a clear step up. Everybody understands you making that move. Lane Kiffin would be moving within the conference to a rival, leaving a school that is higher than both of those. Like, this is the position you're not supposed to leave from. That's the problem with all this. It's why nobody actually feels bad for Lane Kiffin. Most people are upset at him over this, as much as Nick Saban wants to complain about it on College Game Day, and all these other people can say, oh, the calendar. No, you're not supposed to leave a top 5, top 6 team with a chance to win a national championship. You're just not. There's no guarantee he's going to get back to this spot with Florida or LSU if that's who he chooses. And so spare me any of that stuff and get this over with, because everybody else is waiting for him, because that's the first big domino to fall. If Ole Miss loses Lane Kiffin, John Summerall at Tulane is going to be a top option. He is a former Ole Miss assistant. But John Summerall is also a potential finalist at Florida if Lane Kiffin doesn't go there. He's maybe the top option at Auburn. He's from Alabama. His wife went to Auburn. So Summerall's got options too here. That kind of depends on what Lane does. Auburn also potentially Brent Key, Georgia Tech coach. He's from Alabama. Maybe Eli Drinkwitz. DJ Durkin, by the way, the interim, the defense coordinator, they really like him. Now, a lot of people don't because of what happened when he was the head coach of Maryland and Jordan McNair dying and all that stuff. Really bad situation. Any other thoughts on this whole SEC kind of carousel here?
Yeah, I think Summerall to Auburn is the one that if I had to say I felt strongest about any of them and put my money on it, I would put money on Summerall to Auburn. I think that feels like the top choice there. It feels like a job that he likes and has kind of had his eye on. And I honestly think if that marriage came together, I think it would go really well. I think he's got the right stuff. And you talk to people in this industry and who've done searches, who've vetted him, and say he's one of the most impressive candidates they've come across. So
Yep.
I think he whatever job he gets, I think he's going to kill it and do really, really well. He's won at Troy, he's won at Tulane. I expect him to win at his next stop, but I think Auburn is probably the spot. The other one that's interesting in this list that we're looking at: Oregon State, Cal, UAB, Stanford.
Yeah, here let me read through. Let me read through the rest of these.
Sure.
So Oregon State, Brent Vegan, the coach at Montana State, was caught in the airport, the Portland airport, after they beat Montana. He's an option. Jamarcus Shepard, currently I think he's co-OC at Alabama, former Washington State assistant. Justin Wilcox just fired at Cal, potentially could get in the mix as well. At Cal, Tosh Lupoy is considered the big favorite, especially if they move quick. He's a former Cal player, former Cal coach. He's one of the best West Coast recruiters there is. If there's anybody who might be able to keep JKS there, the quarterback, maybe it's him. If it stretches out longer, maybe Sean Lewis at San Diego State, Tim Plow at UC Davis are names to watch as well. Stanford's been really quiet. Tavita Pritchard, the QB coach with the Commanders, Andrew Luck's former backup at Stanford, was a hot name early on. He's kind of cooled off. It seems like he may want to stay in the NFL, but haven't heard a ton there. They may be vetting a lot of NFL guys potentially there that we just simply kind of don't know yet. Same with Penn State, very quiet. Bob Chesney, James Madison coaches in the mix there. Jeff Brom, Louisville coach. But Penn State's the kind of job that could make a big swing with a name you didn't expect. There are whispers of the idea of Kalen DeBoer jumping ship from Alabama to Penn State. If they lose to Auburn, maybe that starts to become more real. It's hard to say how real some of that stuff is, but when USC got Lincoln Riley, LSU got Brian Kelly, like those are moves people didn't expect. We haven't had one of those happen yet, and it probably will, and it might be Penn State. It's hard to know where that one's going to go. UCLA, Bob Chesney, been hearing of a ton, the JMU coach. Sean Lewis as well down there at San Diego State. Ryan Silverfield at Memphis. I think Eric Morris was in on that too, but he's obviously going to Oklahoma State. Michigan State, we'll see. But everybody's confused why they haven't made a decision on Jonathan Smith one way or another. Either you're keeping him or you're not. They're the only school that hasn't announced it yet, what you're doing one way or another. That's been weird. People think they probably don't have the money to buy him out. Is it possible Jonathan Smith would leave and take another job? Maybe, but they've lost like 8 games in a row now, so suddenly he's not as appealing as he might have been either. All right, Sam, what would you want to?
Yeah, hit a couple on these. The Penn State DeBoer stuff is interesting because I heard that over the weekend too, and I just wow, that would absolutely turn some heads if that happened. If you're UCLA, boy, I'd go run to hire Bob Chesney because I'm a big believer in him. I think he's really good. Whoever lands him in the cycle will be very happy. Stanford, Andrew Luck is running that search. That's one of the interesting dynamics in all this. This is not your traditional search in the way that the AD runs it. I mean, I guess Andrew Luck is technically the AD for football. He's the general manager, but he's the one running this thing. So
yes, same thing with Ron Rivera at Cal, by the way, because Cal has 2 interim athletic directors. So when they announced the firing of Justin Wilcox, it was Ron Rivera who made the announcement. Right. So like he's running that. Yeah. And with both Luck and with Ron Rivera, coaches have wondered like, all right, how much control am I really going to have over my program? Or am I just going to have to do what Andrew Luck and Ron Rivera tell me to do? And that is where like the GM role, as Sam has written about a bunch, is very different at different schools. Some places want the GM to be above the coach, but coaches don't like that. Some coaches want to bring their own GM. Some places like Oklahoma try to keep them like equal and stuff like that. So those are two places that it's a little bit different setup that plays a factor. Some people have wondered, would Ron Rivera just make himself the head coach? I'm guessing no.
No, I
but
don't think so.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't say 0%, but
Yeah.
unlikely.
I will say this, Andrew Luck, from what I understand, you talk to people, he's really gotten the donors charged up there. And they're
Yes.
investing at a much higher level now. I know they made an announcement about a $50 million donation earlier this year, but he has really picked that up. And so I think they're going to have some stuff to work with. They're more aggressive in the portal now. They're embracing the modern era a lot more now, and he's driven to kind of make that play. So that's going to be, I think, a job that was a lot further down the totem pole. I think he's going to be sneaky good. At Cal, the interesting thing, you mentioned Tosh Lupoy. I think clearly the favorite there. And I think the strategy from what I hear is if they get Lupoy and they can retain Nick Rolovich, who's offensive analyst, who's now who's still there, and he's the interim. If they can retain him, that may give them the best shot of retaining Giancarlo Sangapulatelli. And that is the highest priority for Ron Rivera, aside from getting this coach, is retaining this quarterback.
Because Sangapulatelli is from Hawaii.
Yep.
And, Nick Rolovich, former head coach at Hawaii. Now, I don't think Rolovich was there for the recruiting process, but you know who Sangapulatelli initially signed with? He committed to Cal, then flipped and signed with Oregon. So I have to imagine Lupoy played a role in that. And so there may be a relationship there. That's one of the biggest things with Cal. Can you keep the quarterback? That is a foundational piece of the future of your program.
And that's part of all these searches. Like if you were Oklahoma State hiring Eric Morris, you got to ask, can you bring your quarterback? Yes. And if you are a program that has a great quarterback and you're bringing a coach, can you keep the quarterback? Can you help us keep our quarterback? That is such a different dynamic now that did not exist 10 years ago in these things. That very much I think has to be part of the equation, especially in a win now era where we're not giving coaches 3 or 4 years to build this thing.
And it will also happen with offensive coordinators. We saw Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer go to Oklahoma. That's kind of the next ring of the coaching carousel after head coaches that'll happen. One other I forgot to mention here, UAB. I've heard Casey Woods, the SMU offensive coordinator, is, at least some people think he's the favorite. He doesn't call the plays, run the offense at SMU, but he's very well respected. I think he's the son of Sparky Woods, the former App State head coach. He was in the mix for App. But I've also heard that UAB, pretty reliably wants head coaching experience after the Trent Dilfer mess. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, maybe should have done that the first time.
Drew Cronick, the OC at Navy, he's formerly a head coach at Mercer, which is in Alabama. This could also be a spot maybe for a former head coach to come back, like a Jimbo Fisher type or something like that. Which of course UAB and Jimbo Fisher, that whole drama, 10, 15 years ago that eventually kind of led to the program being shut down because they wouldn't let him hire Jimbo. Things are changed. Everything's changed a little bit on that front. So
I got one more for you before we move on. This is not a job that is open, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Baylor not opening with Dave Aranda coming back. Linda Livingstone, the president there last week, announced after Mack Rhodes was pushed out as AD that Dave Aranda's coming back. That was a job I think a lot of us thought would open, and once the AD change was made, that is not opening now. So it definitely has a little bit of an impact on the carousel.
Yes, I mean, that was a job that some people wondered if Lincoln Riley would be interested in, but it's not opening. And then Lincoln said Tuesday, yes, 100% I'm coming back. So he didn't exactly say that the first time he was asked about it, but he did say that he is coming back. Because now, like, if USC opened up, then like Kalen DeBoer was, something to watch to go back there because it's the West Coast and he knows the AD and all that stuff. So there are dominoes to this all. Baylor will be interesting. North Texas, obviously, now that North Texas is open, I think a slew of names could fit here. It's a job a lot of people are going to want. Garrett Riley, Clemson OC, was in the mix last time it was open. GJ Kinney, the Texas State head coach, he's making good money at Texas State, and it might be a bit too much for North Texas to make a move, but North Texas has a lot more resources than Texas State does. Texas Tech offense coordinator Mac Leftwich, he worked under Morris and GJ Kinney. Shannon Dawson, the Miami OC, Mo Linguist, a lot of Texas ties. I think he's an assistant at Alabama right now. Rashad Samples, the Oregon running backs coach, son of a legendary high school coach in the DFW area. He's got a ton of ties to Dallas. All sorts of names. Neil Brown, by the way, I've heard Neil Brown at North Texas and maybe UAB as well. Speaking of head coaching experience, obviously Neil was at Troy. He's another former head coach who could kind of back into it. So a lot going on there. We'll link to my story on The Athletic on the show notes. So, okay, that was a lot, but there was a lot of news we had to get to. It is finally time to talk about the games, rivalry week. Everything's on the line. Let's get into it with the game previews.
This is for all the Tostitos.
It really is this time, Brent. We're going to go conference by conference here because the tiebreakers, the championship game scenarios are insane. We're trying to make it as simple as possible. We will go league by league, tell you what it takes for the teams to get in, as well as breaking down the games. And we're going to start with, actually, oh, by the way, I forgot to, so David's not here, so we can't talk about records as much, but I went a perfect 7-0 last week. I am back on the board. I am trying to, okay, so I'm back on the board. David is 63-53-2. I am 61-55-2. I'm now 2 games behind David. The loser has to Uber Eats a restaurant's food to another restaurant. We will sort out how that does. Sam is actually not far behind either of us, by the way. 58-57-3. So a lot of us are back above 500. Got to feel good about that in this situation. Picks have been very up and down. Okay, now let's talk. We're going to start with the SEC, and we're going to start with the game that Sam and I are going to be at Friday night, Austin, Texas. Number 3, Texas A&M at number 16, Texas. 7:30 Eastern Friday on ABC. Texas A&M is a 2.5-point favorite to get into the SEC championship game. Texas A&M needs to win. If they do not win, they need Ole Miss and Bama to lose. But for all intents and purposes, if they win, they're in. Texas needs a win to keep its faint playoff hopes alive. It's not impossible, but it's there. Sam, you and I were at this game last year in Aggie Land, the first game in 12, 11 years that they played it. Huge rivalry game. I love this game. I don't even care about the SEC or playoff implications with this game. There are a lot of games here where like the playoff is not the most important thing. It really is. As much as people want to say, oh, that game doesn't matter because that team's already in the playoff, yada, yada. I do not buy that for a second with a lot of these rivalry games. This is what makes college football different. The competitiveness, the desire to beat your rival, and especially this one that had not been played for a very long time. And Texas A&M feeling the pain of last year when the winner went to the SEC championship game and Texas took that one away from them. There was a lot of pride on the line here. That is the most important thing. What do you think of it?
Yeah, first of all, it's kind of funny that we're sitting here and Texas A&M's 11-0 and still has not clinched an SEC title game. Perth kind of shows you how wild
these conferences are too big. Yeah,
a little bit so. But yeah, this is interesting just because Texas A&M is obviously in an unprecedented position, not in terms of clinching the SEC title, but they've not been 11-0 certainly in their time in the SEC. The last time they were able to do this was back long time ago, RC Slocum era, I think. So it's new territory for the Aggies. Mike Elko has done a terrific job in his 2 years there. Texas has been so up and down all year long. Like they have first, their defense was really dominant and their offense was disjointed. Lately, the defense hasn't been quite what it was early in the season. Now the offense feels like it's starting to get going a little bit. Arch Manning starting to get going, thrown for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, 3 of the last 4 games. So they're getting going offensively, but defensively, there's some leaks. You know, they gave up a lot on the ground, Arkansas last week. Overall, I think Texas A&M is just the better team, top to bottom. I don't think it's going to be a dominant win by any stretch. I do think the dynamic playmakers they have on the outside with Mario Craver, Ashton Bethel-Roman, Casey Concepcion, and that offense, I just think they have a little bit more firepower, a little bit more consistent to me for my liking. And that defensive front that they have, led by Cassius Howell, against a Texas offensive line that has played a lot better, but has had its moments against some elite rushers.
Mhm.
I think that makes me give A&M the edge in this one.
So let me read you Texas A&M's last 9 games. Their opponents: Samford, South Carolina, which they were down 30-3, Missouri with a backup quarterback, LSU, Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi State, Auburn. None of those teams are any good, really. Missouri, like, okay.
Yeah.
I think Texas A&M is a really good team. There are several teams near the top whom I don't know exactly how good they are because they have not been put through the fire.
Mhm.
I do think it's a situation where Texas A&M making that comeback against South Carolina can help you in the long run, where you don't lose that belief. You don't panic if you're suddenly down 14 points and in a bad spot. You've been here before. That helps. But they've not played a team with the true talent level of Texas all year.
Maybe Notre Dame.
Maybe Notre Dame. And so I do wonder if this game just plays out in a way we didn't expect. If maybe it ends up being a very low scoring game. If Marcel Reed throws 3 interceptions. It's 2.5 points is not a lot. I do wonder if this game plays out like last year, where Texas kind of gave A&M chances, but the defense was so good and suffocating that A&M couldn't do anything with it. I could see a situation here where Texas can't do much to do much offensively because A&M has shut them down. We know they can't run the ball very well. They haven't been able to for 2 years now. I was at the A&M LSU game when I saw Marcel Reed have a couple of turnovers, but they kept chugging along, made plays, and pulled away. The speed they have on the outside, Concepcion, Craver, the guys you talked about, that is hard for anybody to keep up with. So you're going Texas A&M 2.5 point favorite. You're going with A&M?
I'm taking them to cover. And here's the thing. I'm going to give you another reason why I'm a little bit reserved about Texas. One thing they've always done well, or at least a Steve Sarkisian team has always done well historically, is run the football. What they haven't done very well all year long consistently is run the football.
Same with last year too. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, but even last year they still were able
they had
to
game.
do it
Yeah,
well
they did run the ball in this game against A&M.
Right.
They did run the ball well in that game.
But dating back to Florida, I'm going to read you their rushing totals as a team. By game. 52 yards, 136, 47, 72, 100, 23, 97. And that is where I think if Texas is going to have to run the ball to some degree to keep Texas A&M's pass rush honest and keep them off of Arch Manning, because that's when Arch is in trouble, is when guys are pinning their ears back and going after him consistently.
Is there any part of you that thinks Texas wins this game because Texas just wins this game because they're Texas and it's Texas A&M, and just sometimes the vibes of her rivalry will go one way or another? Or are you just strictly like, I'm just looking at what happens?
No, I don't
think
think that's the reason if Texas wins. If Texas wins, I think it's this offense kicks it into gear like it did last week against Arkansas, like it did against Mississippi State toward the end, like it did against Vanderbilt in the first 2 quarters. Like if they because one thing I will give Sark credit for, he is in my opinion, a very good big game play caller. Like I think
that's true. Yes.
Early scripts in big games. It's not all the time.
We did see the Georgia game a couple weeks ago. Did not go great.
Georgia game was a little bit rough, but a lot of these spots, the opening script, the early start with him with the call sheet is usually pretty good. He's usually got something for you in this. And so you get that, you get some scores, you get some momentum, then you might get things going. I don't think if A&M loses, I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't think it's because of some grand narrative or rivalry stuff. Like I think it's just if they lose, I think it's because they end up making mistakes or getting outplayed.
I just keep thinking about us being there at Texas A&M last year, all the pent up frustration, excitement, hatred to finally have that game back, and Texas A&M just got suffocated on the
reason why I don't feel that way this time is because Texas's defense is not as good, and A&M's passing game is so much better than it was.
I'm at the moment. I'm gonna go A&M as well, although I don't feel great about it. But I'll do that. We'll go through these other ones quicker. We wanted to go long on that one because Sam and I are going to be there. Number 10 Alabama at Auburn, 7:30 Eastern Saturday. ABC. If Alabama wins, they are in the SEC championship game. Hard to say about the playoff. Auburn is trying to get to a bowl game. This game is always Alabama, by the way, 6.5 point favorite. That's close. A top 10 team and a team with a losing record. It's under a touchdown. That is interesting. This game is always weird when it's at Jordan-Hare. The last 3 games have all been bizarre. You have the long Bryce Young drive. You have the 4th and goal a couple years ago. It's always strange, and this line is strange. Auburn's defense is good. We like that. The offense seems better with Deuce Knight at quarterback, at least for one game against an FCS team. We haven't seen him a ton, though. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, it's funny enough, and I know it's crazy to say this in this rivalry against that team. I would rather see Deuce Knight in this game than Ashton Daniels, but I think Ashton Daniels is going to get the nod in this one, apparently. So,
Interesting.
And so I think Alabama, honestly, I think they're going to run by them. I just think, all respect to J.J. Durkin and the job he's done since he's taken over, but I just think Alabama's a more talented, better team, quite honestly. And I know it's rivalry stuff, but I think after what happened with Oklahoma and some of the pressure, like one thing that I will give Kalen DeBoer credit for is his team responds after these moments. And I mean, obviously they had a tomato can after the Oklahoma loss, but the way they responded to Florida State earlier this year, I see that happening again this time, both last week and this week. And I think they handle Auburn.
One thing about a lot of these rivalry games, though, that are going on this weekend, almost all of them are home underdogs. It is very unlikely it plays out that way.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna keep going. There are going to be upsets here that we didn't see coming. Auburn, I've covered them a couple of times. They've been such a weird team. Alabama, even in their losses, the Florida State one was weird, but like the Oklahoma game, they should have won the game. You have 3 turnovers, blocked field goals, special teams mess. They were the better team in that game. I've liked Alabama all year long. In a big game, I like Kalen DeBoer. That Oklahoma game's just like sticking to my craw for some reason. I'm going to go Alabama covers. I don't feel great about it, though. Night game, too, will be interesting. I think Auburn's too discombobulated with an interim head coach and everything else, and knowing that they want to announce their new head coach by Sunday. And I think there's a lot of that going on. I'm going to go with Auburn as well, but I don't feel great about it. Georgia versus Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, 3:30 Eastern, Friday, ABC. Georgia's a 13.5 point favorite. Georgia will make the SEC championship if Auburn beats Alabama or Texas beats A&M. They need one of Bama or A&M to lose. This is a non-conference game. That's all that has to happen. Georgia, though, is also playing for a first-round bye here. If they win this game, good shot. Even without playing for the SEC championship, they get a first-round bye. This is interesting. Like, I remember I was in College Station last year for the 8 overtime game. I drove some of it. I drove back to my hotel and watched the rest of it at my hotel. Georgia Tech has covered twice in 2 years under Brent Key in this game. They get up for this game. Brent Key was distraught and emotional after losing that game. But Georgia Tech's defense is absolute dog poo for the last 3 weeks. You lose to Pitt. You nearly lose to Boston College. You lose to NC State. Meanwhile, Georgia's playing as well as it has, running the ball well. Gunnar Stockton's playing well. One team is very much trending down. One is very much trending up. I normally hear, like, if Georgia Tech just hadn't been so bad defensively the last few games, I would think Georgia Tech could cover and go 3-0 covering. But I think these two teams are too far apart with the direction they're going. I'm going to go Georgia covers. Again, this is technically a road game, but a road favorite I have here at the moment. What about you?
See, this is one where I do feel like it's too big. The number is way too big because you're right. They do get up for this game. And, buddy, I'm betting on Haynes King to keep this game close. Like, that 8 overtime effort and what we saw last year.
I got to hear I got the Haynes for Heisman shirt that Boston College sent these to us. Unfortunate timing as it arrived after the Pitt game, but Haynes King is a dog, man. They should have won that game last year.
I'm going to ride with Haynes King to cover, at least, and Georgia Tech to cover this game. But do I think they'll win outright? Not necessarily. I think Georgia probably just a little bit too much firepower. But I think this could be another high-scoring shootout. Georgia's not been dominant defensively this year. So I think Georgia Tech keeps this one close. I hate that it's at the Mercedes-Benz. Well, I love the stadium, but wish
Georgia Tech,
Bobby Dodd.
Georgia Tech gave up a home game for this because they basically
for $10 million
money for it.
$10 million. Like it's nothing to shake a stick at. And Seth Emerson wrote a great story about it at The Athletic earlier this week. But I hate that it had to do that. But they also need money to pay players. So
it might be better than having your home stadium invaded by that red as well. Egg Bowl, number 7 Ole Miss at Mississippi State, noon Eastern Friday, ABC. This is one of the first games of the weekend. Ole Miss a 7.5 point favorite. Ole Miss is in the SEC championship if they win and Texas A&M and Alabama both lose. There is technically an outside shot. Very good chance this is Lane Kiffin's last game as head coach. Players have been tweeting, "We're not distracted. We're focused on this game." I think they are distracted. I don't think they are focused on this game. I think Mississippi State covers the 7.5. I don't know about win, but we saw Ole Miss mess around with Florida a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Lane Kiffin and jobs. I think Mississippi State can win this game, but I'm going to say I am picking them to cover.
I'm going to take Ole Miss to cover. I still think this is a better team, a better roster, more firepower. I know the drama's there, but honestly, I don't think that stuff bothers players as much as it used to, because guess what? If you're a player with eligibility, you can go follow the guy if he's going somewhere, and so I don't think that plays as much of a role as it used to.
But if you're a player and you're thinking about leaving with him, then you're by nature distracted by the game in front of you.
Buddy, that's already been happening, boss. Like, it's November. Like, these guys' agents have been inquiring with other schools about, I'm not saying Ole Miss specifically, I'm saying across the board in college football.
Yeah.
Like, these conversations start in October, November.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that some of the hot coaching names are suddenly struggling down the stretch, as well. Everybody's a bit distracted. So
everyone's distracted. So I think that part is a little overrated, just because guess what? Everybody's plotting their next move for 2026.
Yeah.
Coaches and players included.
I got to pick some home underdogs here. And this feels like one because the Egg Bowl gets weird. Lane, we went through this 3 years ago when they lost this game, when Lane was thinking about the Auburn job. Now that everybody feels like they know he's gone, I'm going to go with Mississippi State to cover. LSU at number 8, Oklahoma, 3:30 Eastern Saturday, ABC. Oklahoma's a 10.5 point favorite. If Oklahoma wins, all they got to do is win. They will be in the college football playoff, which will be a great accomplishment for Brent Venables in year 4. Oklahoma has been not playing great, but they've beaten Tennessee, Alabama, and Missouri 3 weeks in a row. The defense has been elite. They're finally getting turnovers, something that they couldn't do before. LSU is completely just collapsing down the stretch. They beat Western Kentucky 13-10 at home last week in Senior Day in a pretty ugly game. 10.5 is a lot for Oklahoma to cover. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think I'll go LSU to cover, but like Oklahoma wins this game, 24-14, and it's ugly. LSU still got a good defense.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think LSU covers the number just because Oklahoma just hasn't shown it to me offensively to believe they're going to win this game against an SEC team by 10 plus points. And so, I mean, they're only averaging 27.3 points per game. So that's right 72nd in the FBS right now. So
yeah, now
you're asking for like 27-14 ish. I think LSU can put a little bit more on the board.
This will be the ugliest game of the weekend, more than Iowa, Nebraska, because LSU hasn't scored more than 25 points against an FBS team all year. Neither of these teams, I think, will be able to move the ball very much. Last one here, Vanderbilt at Tennessee. Number 14, Vandy, 19, Tennessee. David Ubben will be here. This game is on Saturday. I forgot to write the time down in the notes, but David Ubben will be there. If Vandy wins, they've got an outside shot of sneaking into the playoff. It's the first ever ranked matchup between these two teams.
Wow.
120th meeting this is going to be. Diego Pavia is going into Neyland. And do you believe in him? Or do you believe in Joey Aguilar and the Vols?
3:30 Eastern ESPN, by the way. Neyland Stadium. This is fun because this is a quarterback, Joey Aguilar, who is playing this year because of Diego Pavia, because of the Diego Pavia lawsuit. Joey Aguilar is one of those JUCO waiver guys, and has been a great story, by the way. I have Vanderbilt. They have them covering the +2.5, but I also think they're going to win outright. They are Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, Eli Stowers. This whole thing has been great this year. I think they know they let one slip earlier this year when they went to Texas. I mean, I know they had a rally back in that one, but they had a shot.
Destroyed Kentucky. I didn't think they were going to. They destroyed Kentucky in a way that did impress me last week.
Yeah, I just think because they're still in the mix, you see them sitting there at 14. I think they're going to come out guns blazing, and I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think this year we could get this one into the high 30s, low 40s, maybe, because I think you got two really good offenses, two really good quarterbacks going at it here.
What are the chances Diego Pavia does something inappropriate after winning and gets attacked by fans in the crowd? This is the guy who peed on New Mexico's practice field logo when they were practicing there for the bowl.
Man, he's been so much in the conversation the last 2 years that people forget that, man, because that's the first Diego Pavia mention I ever read about in print was that whole incident when he was at New Mexico State. Yeah, I think a high chance that he makes some Tennessee fans mad if they win.
I'm going to go Vandy as well. I'm actually a little surprised Tennessee's favored 3.5, but I guess it is home field, so maybe that's ultimately what it does. Tennessee's been a team just like they've been like out of the picture all year, like never close enough to like be in that many interesting games. But then when they lost to Bama, it was like, all right, they're not making the playoff. They're not in the SEC race, but they're not bad either. Like they're a solid team. So I'm going to go Vandy as well. Now we're going to move over to the Big Ten. We're going to start off with maybe the biggest game of the weekend, one of the biggest games. Ohio State, number 1 Ohio State at number 15 Michigan, noon Eastern Saturday on Fox. Big noons there, college game days there. If Ohio State wins, the Big Ten championship game will be Ohio State versus Indiana, no matter what, is what I read. Michigan is in if they win and one of Indiana or Oregon lose. Funny enough, if Michigan wins and Indiana and Oregon lose, the Big Ten championship game would be a Michigan-Ohio State rematch. So if you want to root for chaos, you root for that. But this game is not about the playoff. This game is not about the Big Ten championship. This game is about this game. This is the only thing anything in these programs are worried about. This is why we say, oh, does the game matter less because of the playoff or this, that? Not at all. Nope. You saw what happened last year. You think that game didn't matter even as Ohio State went on to win the national championship? You got players getting maced on the field after the game. So, like, all that matters is this game this weekend. I am very excited to watch this. I do wonder, though, if Ryan Day feels any less pressure because he has won that national championship. Like, it felt like the last couple of years sometimes that he has tried to win in a way that Michigan would beat them with the amount of times they ran the ball for nothing and tried to overpower them in this stuff. And he ended up losing to Davis freaking Warren in that game last year. You've got the better players, especially offensively. You've got the better quarterback. They're just going to air it out and throw it all over Michigan. I feel like that's what they should do. This Ohio State team, by the way, is not running the ball very well. That has been a problem. And they haven't played good competition. This is another team. I think Ohio State's the best team in the country. They have not played a team at Michigan's talent level maybe since the Texas game. You know, like maybe Penn State, but Penn State was interim head coach, injured quarterback. It was different. Like Ohio State has not been in this situation. They've been tested like this before. And I do wonder how you handle that. What happens if you fall down 10-0 early? Do you guys start to panic because they haven't been in this situation before? Julian Sayin hasn't been in that position before. And the other question is, are the Ohio State wide receivers healthy? Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith did not play last week. Now they say they will this week, but we don't know like how well they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if suddenly those guys are not what they should be and you can't run the ball, does that limit what Ohio State can do? I'm like Michigan, Ohio State, there's all the natural questions that come with this. But the nature of the matchup itself, I find very interesting.
What's the most talented team you think they've played since the opener? Penn State, probably. I know Penn State isn't good, but probably most talented roster they faced was Penn State. And that was a game that was
close at halftime.
Little tight at halftime. I think it was, it was 14-17 at halftime, and it was we were getting a little nervous. I think a lot of what you said with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, their health is really going to, I think, dictate this about how easy this makes it. Because if they're 80% or better, then I think Ohio State is just a better football team that handles it, that handles this just like they've handled a lot. But if they're not, if it's a little ambiguous, then and it takes some of the, takes some of the firepower out of the passing game, then it becomes interesting. So
I think
go ahead.
I think sometimes we think like we thought this last year, like, oh, Ryan Day is going to just unload all that frustration on Michigan and blow them out of the water. And that's what Michigan's going to do, or Ohio State's going to do to end the streak and do it in blowout fashion. I don't think it's going to happen that way. I think it's going to come down to a nail biter, and they're going to have to win a close game and pull through. I think Michigan covers 9.5. I'm taking a home underdog here. I'll believe it when I see it. Ohio State, a lot of questions. Michigan's got injuries too, by the way. Max Bredesen, the fullback's hurt. Jordan Marshall, the running back, is hurt, although he has said he will be back. I do think it's possible Michigan breaks off like a 60-yard touchdown run in this game. That is, in many, many times, that has been their offense, just a big run. And it's on the road. I think Michigan covers. Does Ohio State win? I think Ohio State wins, but I think they win a close one. They're in a battle in a way they haven't been since Texas.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick with the theme I've had. I'm going to say I'm going to take the road team to cover. I'm going to take the road favorite to cover the 10.
It's going to be boring if all these road favorites win these rivalry games. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. Here's another road favorite in a rivalry game. Number 6, Oregon at Washington, 3:30 Eastern, CBS Saturday. This is after Ohio State, Michigan. So Oregon will know going into this game if they have a shot or not, because they need Ohio State to lose to have a chance. Or I guess technically, that it looks like that's a win versus Washington and an Ohio State loss, or both Ohio State, Indiana lose, because they would lose the tiebreaker with Indiana because Indiana beat them. The question I have here, is Oregon healthy? They have been down a lot of dudes. Kenyon Sadiq finally came back against USC and looked great. I think this Oregon team, when they're fully healthy and operational, could win a few playoff games. But we haven't seen that team in a while. They're down several receivers, got a couple of linemen injured against USC. That is a concern I have. What do you think about the Ducks?
Yeah, this is a really good football team. Washington hasn't quite met the level that I thought they were. I thought they were going to be a little bit better team than they have been this year. Damon Williams, I thought, super talent, and it just hasn't quite been the force that I thought they would be this year.
Here are the teams that Washington has beaten this year: UCLA, Purdue, Illinois, Rutgers, Maryland, Washington State, UC Davis, Colorado State. There's nothing in there. And the losses, Ohio State 24-6 wasn't really competitive. At Michigan 24-7 wasn't really competitive. And then at Wisconsin, bad loss in weird weather. So they've not beaten anybody. If they've only the thing, by the way, they're 8-3. If their schedule was tougher, they probably wouldn't be 8-3. They'd be 6-5, 7-4 type of team. They have not played
The best win
as
is
well as
probably
Kennesaw.
Illinois. The Illinois win.
The Illinois team who just lost to Wisconsin as well. So it's like,
yeah. Again, I go back to rivalry game, but yes, questions with Oregon about health, but I still do think this is a better football team. So I take them to cover the 6.5 on the road.
I'm taking Oregon to cover as well. I think they are a little bit healthier. I don't think Washington's just got much juice. It's possible the Oregon injuries end up keeping this close, but I'm going to go with the road favorite in this one as well. And last one in the Big Ten, Iowa at Nebraska, Friday at noon Eastern, CBS. Iowa a 6.5 point favorite. Nebraska's coming off that blowout loss at Penn State that was pretty ugly. Now there's whispers that Dylan Raiola may not be coming back. He's obviously hurt and out for the year. The vibes are not good at Nebraska right now, the last couple of weeks. But this game's at home, and they're much better at home than they are on the road. They are not good on the road. This is not there. Real quick, what do you think?
Oh, let's see. Well, let me pull up. I want to see what's the series in this one, because didn't Nebraska have a really long streak about losing this to Iowa?
Yeah, Iowa has won this one many, many times, oftentimes on a walk-off field goal, in which case 6.5, there'd be a cover if it's another Iowa. Iowa had a walk-off field goal last week against Michigan State. They were down 17-7 in the fourth quarter. So it's like, it's not like Iowa. And before that, they played USC close. They played Oregon close. So Iowa's always naturally in these close games. That makes 6.5 a lot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of the last 10 have gone Iowa's way in this one.
Remember when remember when Nebraska fired their coach because they said being better than Iowa wasn't good enough or something like that? Sean, I of course had that comment when Bo Pelini was fired, I think is what it was, and it's been not good since.
Give me the Hawkeyes. I'm going to side with history here, and the Hawkeyes getting it done.
I'm picking Iowa to win, but is this another one of those 17-14 games? It seems to happen every Black Friday. Every year this game is. You have the games in front of you.
13-10. I'm going to read you the scores. 13-10, 13-10, 24-17, 28-21, 26-20, 24-27. 31-28.
Yeah.
The last one that was bigger than that, it was a big, large margin. It was 2017. Iowa won 56-14.
Yeah.
That's the last time they had a large margin.
I'm going Nebraska keeps it close because it's always close, but I do think Iowa wins. All right, let's jump to the ACC. Number 21 SMU at Cal, 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturday night, ESPN2, late game. If SMU a 13.5 point favorite, Cal interim head coach. If SMU wins this game, they are in the ACC championship, thanks to Georgia Tech's loss last week. I was at SMU Louisville last week. This SMU team, I think, is rolling. They're playing very well. They may be playing better than anybody in the ACC at the moment. Cal, interim head coach. Sometimes you get like the dead cat bounce with interim head coaches this year, but it is the last game. Cal's already got a bowl game locked up. Similar to the Lane Kiffin thing, I think that's a lot of distractions. 13.5 is a lot for SMU. But Cal is so inconsistent and all over the place. I think SMU wins and wins big. They cover.
Boy, you know who I'm going with. I'm going with my guy, Kevin Jennings.
Kevin Jennings. Sam is the leader of the Kevin Jennings fan club. Last year, he was telling us Kevin Jennings was better than Preston Stone, even though SMU's coming off the American Championship. And we're all like, no, we like Preston Stone. And Sam's like, no, it's Kevin Jennings. Kevin Jennings is the guy. And Kevin Jennings comes in and plays against BYU and plays terribly. And we're like, Sam, see, you were wrong. And then, no, Sam was right. Kevin Jennings is great. He's healthy. He looked great against Louisville in a way that he'd not looked for weeks because they had the bye week before that. He's healthy. Yeah, Kevin Jennings, I think he'll be one of the best quarterbacks in the country next year.
Yeah, thrown for 300 plus in the last 3 weeks. And they really started to hit the groove. Man, if SMU has a couple losses on this resume that are just gut-wrenching. The Baylor loss in double overtime earlier in the year. They lost to Wake really close.
On the field goal as time expired, yeah.
They'd love to have
this
one back. This playoff race would be looking a lot different with those results going the other way. And so but they still have their shot. They win out, and they're in. And I think that I agree with you. I think they're gonna go. I love JKS. I'm a huge JKS fan, but I think SMU handles them. and I think they take care of business here.
SMU, by the way, 14-1 in November under Rhett Lashlee. After they had not had a winning November since 2009. So Sonny Dykes built up the program again, but they'd always collapse in November. Under Lashlee, they're not collapsing in November. I don't think they do here. Virginia Tech at number 18. Virginia, 7:00 Eastern Saturday, ESPN. Virginia an 8.5-point favorite. If Virginia wins, they are in the ACC championship. We saw Virginia Tech, show some fight against Miami. They were down 10, recovered an onside kick late. They dominate this rivalry. While I'm talking, pull up the Commonwealth Cup. Is that this one?
Yeah, let me pull that up.
Yeah, pull that up because this has been a totally. I want to say Virginia might have like one win in the last 15 or something like that. This game never goes Virginia's way. However, Virginia Tech did beat the brakes off of Duke 2 weeks ago. They suddenly looked better. They had a bye week coming into this at home. I think Virginia gets it done because Virginia Tech is ready for this dreadful season to end.
Since 1999, Virginia has only won this game twice.
Oh my God.
They won it in 2003 in Charlottesville, and they won it in 2019 in Charlottesville.
Okay,
every other game has gone Virginia Tech's way since 99. And then they had 97, 98. Virginia won back to back. And basically the 10 years before that, it was pretty split. Maybe
Tech hasn't even been good for a decade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think?
I believe. Do you know what, Tony Elliott? Give him all the credit in the world, man. I think they handle this. I think they take care of business here. I was impressed with what they did against Duke. Because I think I'd picked Duke in that game, and because of Mensa and how they played at times this year. But they've had some close calls, but
they did.
I think this is a good team, good coach, good quarterback. I think they handle. I think Cavs get it.
And in case they don't, we will know before then if Miami or Pitt has a shot. Number 12 Miami at number 22 Pitt, noon Eastern, ABC, Saturday. Pitt is in the ACC championship if they win and a loss from either SMU or Virginia. So if one of them falters and Pitt wins, Pitt is in. After that, it gets way too complicated to understand because technically Duke at 6-5, I think, has a better path than Miami. Duke is in if they win and Miami beats Pitt and SMU and Virginia lose. After that, it's tough. But here's what I think is going to happen with Miami and Pitt. We have spent weeks doing the Miami-Notre Dame playoff argument of who should be higher than one another. And ultimately, Miami loses to Pitt to make all those weeks of arguments a complete waste of time. This is what Miami does when they get into these big spots on the road in cold weather. Kickoff is going to be about 30 degrees and cloudy.
Oh,
I was up at SMU. Leading into that game, I tweeted, Miami hasn't played outside the state of Florida yet, and the weather's not great for SMU. Will it play a difference? I don't know if it played a difference or not, but they didn't play well in that game.
Nope.
This is a team that has not left home very often. When they have, it hasn't gone great. Even last week against Virginia Tech, they struggled. So, struggled a bit. I mean, they won, ultimately struggled in the second half there a little bit. I think Miami gives us that classic end-of-the-year meltdown on the road against a Pitt team that often does this to some of the top teams in the ACC. And it makes all of that arguing we did for nothing. Notre Dame cruises into the playoff without a debate. I think Pitt not only covers the 6.5 as a home underdog, they win outright.
This is right before Miami played SMU when, we do our weekly picks. And I picked SMU in that one because I thought to myself, you know what? This is one of those spots where you just don't trust Mario Cristobal. And when I was making my picks this week, I looked at this game and I said, you know what? This is the spot I do not trust Mario Cristobal, not one iota. And so whether they win or lose, I don't know, but certainly don't expect them to cover. I think Pitt definitely covers this one.
But I say this as someone who thinks Miami should be ranked ahead of Notre Dame.
Me too. I'm contradicting myself from the start of this. I think they have one of the best pairs of offensive and defensive lines in the country.
I just think Miami. Yes, I just think Miami is going to let all of us down who believed in them and argued for them over the last.
Boy, this could be a
weeks.
ripe Carson Beck 3 interception type game.
All right. Notre Dame at Stanford. This is going to be your last game of the weekend. 10:30 Eastern, ESPN, Saturday. Notre Dame's a 31.5 point favorite. We don't need to pick it. But just know that like Notre Dame is almost assuredly in the playoff with a win. It feels like, but that'll be the late game that we're doing. By the way, I believe there will be no bunch formation after dark on Saturday night. I will be doing a bunch of stuff. David will be at Vanderbilt.
You and me will be Tennessee. On the road back from Austin, Texas, I think.
Well, I'm driving back Saturday morning.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Friday night, I'll be driving back Saturday morning to try to get back up here to Dallas to do some stuff with some friends, but while also watching the games. All right, let's move to the Big 12. Arizona, number 25, Arizona at number 20, Arizona State, 9:00 Eastern, Friday on Fox. The Territorial Cup, which I think is the oldest rivalry trophy in all of college football. Like the trophy itself. Very, very old thing. If Arizona State loses this game, if Arizona wins, the Big 12 championship will be Texas Tech BYU. So we will know going into Saturday if BYU and Texas Tech are in or if they need to win to get in. Arizona State, both these teams are 8-3 in very different ways. I mean, Arizona State came in with all the preseason attention, had some weird games in between, a ton of injuries. Now they're winning games with Jeff Sims because Kenny Dillingham's working wonders there, doing a great job. Arizona came in, Brent Brennan on the hot seat, felt like he needed to get things turned around. And second half of the season, they very much have. And they have a couple of close losses. If they went the other way, they might be even better. It's at Arizona State, big rivalry game. The Kenny Dillingham magic I like, but I think Arizona's in a comfortable position. They're healthier. They're just playing better. I'm going to go Arizona.
Yeah, Noah Fafita, big bounce back year for him after a rough year last year. They've been hot lately. They pounded Colorado. They beat Cincinnati. They pounded Baylor last week. They're just kind of rolling right now. And all respect to Kenny Dillingham and what he's done there, especially with Leavitt out. So, but yeah, I think Arizona's still got a chance here, and I think they'll win this one.
That's a road favorite, by the way. Arizona. It's only 1.5, but still. Number 5, Texas Tech at West Virginia, noon Eastern, Saturday, ESPN. Texas Tech a 23.5 point favorite. Again, if Arizona State has already lost, Tech will be in the game. But if in case Arizona State wins, Texas Tech, I believe, needs a win. There's some other weird stuff that goes on that I don't want to get into all of it, but simplest forms for Texas Tech is if Arizona State loses, you're in. If not, then if you win, you're in. After that, we'll figure it out. I don't think this is going to be close. Texas Tech wins big. Just wanted to lay that out for you. Similarly, we'll hit these two together. Similarly, UCF at number 11 BYU, noon Eastern, Saturday, ESPN2. BYU is a 17.5 point favorite. They are in the same position. Winning, you're in. Or if Arizona State lost. Any thoughts on these two?
I think the West Virginia one could actually be sneaky interesting just because Rich Rod has kind of gotten them playing better here down the stretch. They came down to Houston a few weeks ago and beat the Cougars. They beat Colorado. They were in a dogfight with Arizona State. They're starting to catch a groove. And just for Big 12 teams, the trip out to Morgantown is just not always easy. It can be tough to win there. The last time Tech went there, they lost. The time before that, there was a 23-20. They had to squeak it out. So Tech has beat when they've had their quarterback healthy, they've beaten every Big 12 opponent by 20 plus. So very well could happen again.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't shock me if West Virginia covered.
And look, if going into Saturday, you're already in the Big 12 championship game, do you play it easy? Do you play it soft and kind of, not try as hard, pull some guys earlier? I don't know. Could be interesting. Last one of the Big 12, number 13, Utah at Kansas, noon Eastern, Friday, ESPN. Utah a 10.5 point favorite. Utah does have a path to the Big 12 championship game. It has one path. It's very complicated. I don't want to, but just it's there. Utah on the fringe, probably not going to make the playoff. It's hard to see them moving up any such way or getting pushed. They're more likely to get jumped even as well than them jump some other teams. 10.5 at Kansas. I think Utah wins by more than that. That Kansas State game was weird, but otherwise, Utah is a team that destroys teams that it is better physically than usually, and I think it will with Kansas.
I agree, and I think Kyle Whittingham probably going to try to put it on as much as he can to get some style points, for lack of a better term, because they need them. They need them. I think their only path in is winning the Big 12 title game.
Yes, and Kansas, by the way, 5-6, playing for a bowl game. Quite a letdown season for Lance Leipold and company there at Kansas. Not what they were hoping for. Group of 5 corner presented by Soar the Eagle. We'll start with the American. Tulane, if you win against 1-10 Charlotte, you are in because they are the highest ranked American team in the playoff rankings. Pretty simple. North Texas, if you win against 5-6 Temple, like 99% chance you're in via computer rankings, or if you're with Navy, the head-to-head versus Navy puts them in. Navy plays Memphis on Thursday night, the only college football game on Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, against Memphis. If Navy loses that game, it might mean North Texas is already in. I'm not sure about that. If there are other tiebreakers, three-way ties and stuff, if they all lose, for example, it will come down to computer rankings, which like North Texas, actually. So very, very, like 99% likely we get a Tulane North Texas championship game, unless somebody loses here. Do you think any of these teams have a chance of getting upset? Obviously, Navy against Memphis I'd put that as a 50-50 game, but between Tulane and North Texas, any chance either one of them loses?
I would put the more chances on North Texas just because Temple. I think Casey Keeler's done a great job in his first year there. They are playing for bowl eligibility. Would be a nice boost if they can get it. But they have been a good competitive team all year. Lost a few close ones. So if I were to pick one to possibly get upset, I think North Texas is more likely. Charlotte's just not really in a good place right now.
Yes. Also, North Texas doesn't have its knows it is losing its head coach, and people may be going with him. So you kind of wonder about some.
I was going to say there. Again, like 10 or 12 of those guys may be joining him in Stillwater for all we know. So.
And in this game's on Saturday, so you may get a Lane Kiffin has made a decision, and then therefore John Summerall has made a decision. Like Summerall will probably want whatever his decision is to not come out until after this game. There's a good chance.
The Saturday night kickoff, though, man, oof, that's pushing it. So
it could leak out before then, as well. And I would there's a chance, Eric Morris is staying with North Texas as far as they go. It may be the same with John Summerall and Tulane. Now that we have crossed that barrier of like, all right, a group of 5 team coach, even if they make the playoff, will stay with their team as far as they go while also doing the other job. Which
I will
say
this real quick. I saw last night high school recruits already saying they got offers to go to Oklahoma State by Eric Morris. So Morris is already working the recruiting trail for Oklahoma State. It's I feel bad for the North Texas fan, but I mean, hey man, you got to do what you got to do. So
yeah, this is the life of being a group of 5 fan, and it is admittedly very, very tough. I would just say, try not to think about the future at this point. You guys are having great seasons. Enjoy it. Your coach is there. Don't let us in the media or anybody else try to take your joy away from the special season that you're having. Because I love both these teams, and I want these teams to go on and play each other, and someone make the playoff and do something. Like, that'd be really cool. We know coaches at both these places, like, we're not sitting here being like, haha, group of 5, you guys suck, you don't matter. We're not Will Compton. We're not Danny Cannell. We're not these people saying we're not these people saying a group of 5 team doesn't deserve to be in the playoff. Not at all. We completely disagree with that. No.
If anything, hey, I wrote in August when we started this 24-team nonsense, that I think we should go to the FCS model because we should give every conference champion in the FBS a bid into the postseason.
Moving over,
I think that would be great. So anyway,
moving over to the Sun Belt, James Madison is already in the Sun Belt Championship game. They are the only conference that still has divisions because they're the only smart conference that apparently exists and realize conferences are too big and we want divisions. On the other side, the West side, Troy versus Southern Miss. Winner plays James Madison. This is a fascinating divisional championship game because Southern Miss is led by first-year head coach Charles Huff, who won the Sun Belt last year at Marshall, took over the 1-11 team, and has them playing well. Their quarterback's been hurt the last couple of weeks. Braylon Braxton. I'm not sure if he's playing in this game or not.
Braylon Braxton, baby. Come on. Put some respect on the guy who won the Sun Belt last year.
That's what I thought it was, but it's one of those like two first names. And so sometimes you
good player.
Troy's second-year head coach, Jared Parker. They've been playing pretty well as well. I think they got blown out by Old Dominion recently, but Old Dominion is in the other division. They've already played James Madison. So pretty simple there in the Sun Belt. I'm going to pick Southern Miss out of those two. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll take Southern Miss. I mean, hey, man, Charles Huff. First of all, I thought Gerard Parker was a sneaky good hire when Troy made it. And so it's paid off so far. But, hey, man, going back to back, I mean, at different schools, I think we try to research this as if it's happened before. And I don't know, not an impression that they're necessarily going to go beat JMU, but Braylon Braxton, Charles Huff did this last year at Marshall. Now they got a chance to do it at Southern Miss, so I'll take the Golden Eagles. Southern Miss.
Okay, so Braylon Braxton did play, it looks like, against South Alabama last week. He did come back. So
400 yards, maybe.
So yeah, so he looks to be good, but he has been banged up. In the Mountain West, if San Diego State beats New Mexico, they are in. If not, it's a complete mess because you have Boise State, UNLV, and I think New Mexico right behind. I think they each have 2 conference losses. And after that, you have Hawaii, Fresno State, Utah State, technically still alive. Boise's got the tiebreaker over because they beat New Mexico and they beat UNLV. So I would think if San Diego State wins and Boise wins, I'm pretty sure it's San Diego State, Boise State at that point. Boise's got at Utah State. By the way, if San Diego State does host the Mountain West Championship, they may not be able to host it at home because their stadium is hosting some MLS thing, some soccer thing, apparently. So
wow.
they may need to move the game again. So keep an eye on that. I'm gonna say we do get San Diego State and Boise State winning and setting up that rematch for a conference championship.
Well, San Diego State's got one of the best defenses out there, buddy.
They do. Everyone talks about Sean Lewis's offense, all that stuff. No, I think it's Robbie Arick or something, the defense coordinator. They are like 3rd in the country in points allowed per game behind Indiana and Ohio State. So
yeah,
they're good there. In the MAC, Western Michigan has clinched a spot after its win on Tuesday night. After that, we've got Ohio, Toledo, Central Michigan, and Miami all still alive. Toledo and Central Michigan play each other. So the loser of that will be out. Based on various results, it gets complicated. Not sure. But I don't know, there's nothing really to pick there. But between Toledo, Central Michigan, I'll pick Central Michigan to win that game and remain in the mix.
I am just rooting for, let's see, Buffalo. Buffalo's 5-6 against, they're hosting Ohio. Got a chance to go bowl eligible if they can pull the upset. So
Buffalo's been a weird team. Like they've had very ups and downs, had some wins. They almost lost to UMass. They were the one team to almost lose to UMass, who did, by the way. UMass lost to Bowling Green on Tuesday. They finished 0-12, winless team in FBS.
I concede to you, Chris, that we've had this debate over the course of the year about who should be number 136. I concede you were right all along. UMass should be number 136.
Sam was pushing hard for Sam Houston to be the worst, and I was like, buddy, you got to watch UMass.
Well, and I did, and then I realized how bad UMass was. And then Sam Houston won some football games.
They did.
Sam Houston beat Oregon State and got off tonight. They ended up winning 2 in a row. So maybe Phil Longo and the Bearcats have gotten some things going and gotten off tonight, certainly off of the 136 watch. So
speaking of Conference USA, we have Western Kentucky versus Jacksonville State. The winner of that game will be in and host the Conference USA Championship game. I'm going to pick Western Kentucky there. They've had some kind of up and down year, but I'm still an overall good season. I'll take Western Kentucky. After that, Kennesaw State would be in if they beat Liberty. However, if Kennesaw loses and Jacksonville State loses, Jacksonville State will go to the championship game. We'll get 2 weekends in a row. But if Western Kentucky loses and Kennesaw loses, Kennesaw would go. Kennesaw has the tiebreaker over Western Kentucky. Jacksonville has the tiebreaker over Kennesaw. But Kennesaw State, by the way, Gary Mack, the coach, first year, I think they're 8-3 to be playing to get into the Conference USA Championship game in his first season there. Unbelievable job. Like there's a lot of first year coaches, even in this league, who have done a really good job. Willie Simmons, who we talked about on the last episode, Jerry Mack, Kennesaw, like taking over not only what I think a 2-10 team, but one that had to transition out of the triple option offense. Like that is hard to do. So big time ups to Jerry Mack and what he's doing there. And also Charles Kelly, first year at Jacksonville State. A chance to go to the conference championship game as well. So
low key, really good coaches in this conference. Like I said, Charles Kelly's done a great job. Tyson Helton, obviously not our first year coach, but man, he consistently continues to do a good job at Western Kentucky.
He'll win you 8 games. He'll win you a minimum of 8 games every year is what Tyson Helton does.
And one surprising one is Sonny Cumpy. Louisiana Tech's going to a bowl this year. I think that was one that we had kind of left for dead. If you'd asked me at the start of this year, I would expect Sonny Cumpy to not be employed at this point. And
they wanted to fire. They wanted to fire him last year. They just didn't have the money, and the defense was like good enough where you're like, oh, maybe give him another year. And they started, I want to say, like 5-3, so they haven't been great down the stretch, but got back to a bowl game, and that's a big deal.
Yep. So it's good. Been a really interesting year in Conference USA.
Yeah. Well, what's your pick here for just who comes out of this to play in the championship game?
Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky. I love Kennesaw. I think Kennesaw has been terrific, but
so you have so that'd mean Liberty, who's not going to a bowl game this year. I think they're 4-7. I believe they have not had a great year. Yeah, 4-7. So very weird drop off for Jamie Chadwell. Like I think this might be by far the worst year for him as a head coach. Very strange. But Conference USA has been fun. FCS game of the week, because we forgot to do this last week, and thank you to the listener who reached out and told us that we forgot to do FCS game of the week. I'm going to give you 2. The FCS playoffs start this weekend.
Yes.
You've got Harvard at Villanova and Yale at Youngstown State. And it's notable because this is the first time the Ivy League is in the FCS playoffs. They had forever stayed out of it. They just did their own thing. They don't have scholarships, but they voted to have their champion go to the FCS playoffs, get an automatic bid. And Harvard also got in as an at-large. So you always kind of wondered, like, how would an Ivy League stack up against a North Dakota State type of team? We'll see, because if Yale beats Youngstown State on the road, they will go to, I believe, Montana State. So you've seen those.
Good luck.
Good luck. You've watched those Montana State playoff games in the icy snow up there in the mountains. Imagine sending the Yale boys up there. That could be a lot of fun.
I've got one I'm interested in watching: North Dakota at Tennessee Tech. Tennessee Tech surprisingly did not get a top 8 seed or a bye, even though their only loss this season is to Kentucky in the SEC. They went unbeaten in their conference, and I think they're 11-1 on the year.
Bobby Wilder, friend of the show. We talked about them earlier in the season. Yeah,
good quarterback. Keikoa Vesperas. He was transferred from Eastern Washington. Really, really talented guy. Thought he was going to get some FBS looks, but they ended up nabbing him, and he's been huge for them. So curious to watch how far Tennessee Tech can take it in this bracket.
Also, Bobby Wilder, thought to be a name in the UAB search. He, on Wednesday, signed a new 5-year contract. So it appears he is sticking with Tennessee.
Resources. I talked to some people over there. They're putting some resources into the program from an NIL standpoint, roster budget, and all that. They're doing some big things down there. So,
the highest and lowest over-unders of the weekend. The highest, 65.5. We've actually got 3 schools at that. Temple at North Texas.
Ooh, yeah.
East Carolina at FAU, and Vandy at Tennessee. I'm going to say the 2 American games hit the over. I think Vandy, Tennessee goes under.
I'm going to say Temple, North Texas goes over, and Vandy and Tennessee go over.
Okay. The lowest total of the weekend.
Oh, man.
36 and a half.
LSU, Oklahoma, is it?
It's not Iowa. It's not Iowa, Nebraska. It's LSU at Oklahoma. Very much so.
Yes. What's the over under on that? 36 and a half?
36 and a half.
Ooh, that's low.
I'm going to take the under because neither of us like these teams, and we both had LSU covering.
I'm going to go ahead and take the over. I'm going to say, but barely, like 24-14 type.
Yeah.
Over.
A couple defensive scores could make you hit that over too, which Oklahoma's been doing. The Iowa-Nebraska, by the way, is 38.5. So it's just a bit higher.
I'll take the under on that.
Than that game. All right. Now we're going to end this long, joyous Rivalry Week episode the way we end every episode, and that is by remembering some guys.
It's better than this. Guys being dudes.
And I'm going to go with Michigan running back Tim Biakabatuka. Running back from 1993 to 1995, most famously ran for 313 yards in the 1995 game to upset the undefeated Ohio State Buckeyes. I grew up in Michigan. I grew up a Michigan fan. Many tales of Michigan players who won that game in ways you didn't expect, as happened last year. Sometimes it just happens. There's a long history of both Michigan and Michigan State just ruining a number one undefeated Ohio State's season. It happened a lot in the 90s. Michigan did it in 95, 96, then won the title in 97. Michigan State did it in 98. So like that was very much a thing in the 90s where Ohio State would just keep losing to these freaking Michigan teams. None more famous than Tim Biakabatuka.
Do you know what his given first name is?
Oh, it's like Tishmanga.
Shimanga Biakabatuka.
There you go. Much
yeah,
better
starts with the T though. Yeah. No, I remember Tim Biakabatuka, man. I'm old enough for those days. That was my prime, like middle school, early high school watching college football days. But
you're a lot older than me than I always think, and I mean that as a compliment. You're a young soul.
My guy, I'm gonna default to my alma mater. And if I have a reason for it, I thought about this week. Tyron Carrier, receiver at Houston, who currently an assistant coach, a receivers coach at Coastal Carolina, has bounced around in the Power Four, was at West Virginia, in Houston with Dana Holgorsen, won the Receivers Coach of the Year award back in 2018 for Football Scoop. But as a player from Houston 2008 to 2011, part of one of the best offenses in college football history, 7 kickoff return touchdowns, still tied for the FBS career record with CJ Spiller, Rashad Penny, and Tony Pollard. The other interesting record that he has that I did not know existed until I looked this up, Tyron Carrier, Houston receiver, holds the FBS record for most consecutive games catching at least 2 passes with 53. He had 53 consecutive games with at least 2 receptions, which is a pretty wild statistics. But I thought about Carrier recently because last week, Drew Mestamaker in North Texas had thrown for 252 yards and 3 touchdowns in his first 8 passes. He was like 6 of 8. Most of those going to Wyatt Young, the receiver who had like 295 yards passing. And someone on social media responded when I posted that stat. He said, hey, that's some Case Keenum, Tyron Carrier type action. I thought, you know what? That's exactly right. Because it was Case Keenum would throw a short crossing route and mesh to Tyron Carrier, and he would take it for like 75 yards for a touchdown. So with that speed he had. But still the FBS record holder in most consecutive games with at least 2 catches, 53, and 7 kickoff return touchdowns in his career.
And the listener nomination, Kellen Johnson emailed into bunchformationpod@gmail.com. Kellen says, first of all, love the pod. I've been listening to both of you for years, and I'm glad to see the new show doing well. As a lifelong Colorado fan, I think some of the best players to play at Folsom Field have been forgotten and ignored by new fans. Also, shout out 2016 Coach of the Year, Mike McIntyre. Running back Philip Lindsay is the school's leader in yards from scrimmage and all-purpose yards, second in rushing behind only Eric Bieniemy, and is affectionately known as the Colorado Kid. He was also the first undrafted offensive rookie to make a Pro Bowl and is the only NFL player to have over 700 career touches without recording a fumble. That's great. I actually did. I know of him in the NFL, but I haven't paid attention to him very often. That's very cool that he's been doing that and having that success. I do remember him at Colorado at the time. That Colorado team came out of nowhere to make the Pac-12 championship game, I believe. That 2016 team, I think they lost it. But I do remember because Mike McIntyre had kind of pulled that team out of nowhere. Yeah, they went 10-4. They lost to Washington 41-10. That was when Washington went to the playoff. Yeah, Colorado, very up and down couple of years, but Philip Lindsay, an all-time great. Good call. Sam, any memories of him?
Barely. Like, I remember the name, but but yeah, that was during a time in Colorado where it was obviously, I mean, they had a good season there under McIntyre, but they had obviously a tough stretch over time there. But yeah, apparently Mike McIntyre used to call him the Tasmanian Devil.
Ah, there you go.
Fun fact.
All right, great. It looks like he's actually out of the NFL now. Most recently played in the XFL in 2023. So only not that long in the NFL, but I do remember him doing some things in the NFL. Anyway, good call. These are the guys we like to remember. Philip Lindsay, Tyron Carrier, Tshimanga, say it the right way, Sam?
Shimanga. Tim
Biavatuka. We remember you. Folks, thank you for sitting all the way through this very long Rivalry Week episode. I had a lot of fun. There is so much exciting and good football this weekend. I'm so excited, Sam, that you and I are going to Texas A&M. Part of me is like, and I texted you because I thought the game was on Saturday, and you're like, no, it's Friday. I was like, oh, great. I'm going to have Saturday to watch all the games now. I'm going to be able to pay attention to all that stuff. I am going to have to watch some of the Friday stuff on my drive down on my phone. Don't do that, kids. But Sam, I will see you in person on Friday night. Reminder, likely no after dark on Saturday, in which case David and I will be back on Monday. Hopefully, if David has survived this week with the family. That'll do it here for Sam Kahn. I'm Chris Vannini. Thank you for listening to Bunch Formation. We will talk to you on Monday.
Bring back the Southwest Conference.